Hi everyone. This is my recording for the activity on language competencies for TESOL 531. I would like to start by saying that I'm Spiros Yosifidis. I have been an English teacher for the past 16 years or so. Primarily, I work as a primary school teacher. And I would like to start by saying that in regards to language competencies, that all the learners and teachers have a philosophy that helps them define what learning is, and mostly influences how language learning occurs. In my case, my philosophy was that language was a facilitator of communication between people. The simple philosophy also influences my understanding and definition of language competencies. As a learner, I sought and focused on language aspects that would help me communicate with others easily. My belief was learning the necessary elements of the second language needed to connect would offer me more interaction opportunities essential for improving my competencies in practice. Fortunately, my philosophy was worthwhile since I learned the second language faster and easily, even if my pronunciation or understanding of specific words and phrases were poor. Similarly, as a teacher, I found myself leading students to view a language the way I do. I encourage them to interact in authentic environments, even with the little vocabulary learned. Notably, my philosophy also influences how I define my competencies. For example, I define spoken communication competency as the ability to use verbal language to engage and understand others with ease. The implication is that I keep my vocabulary and phraseology simple enough to facilitate communication. Comparatively, I define my written communication competency as the use of formal language, especially in business and academic communication, which implies the need to direct, concise, and only use vocabulary that the message recipient would readily understand. In other words, in written communication, I tend to prioritize my linguistic competency and thus focus on formal language characteristics such as lexicon, morphology, and phonology. Lastly, I also define language based on social competency. For instance, I'm very particular to learn about the social aspects of language, including group repertoire and politeness and etiquette rules. I believe that learning and being competent in the social aspects of language is essential and allows for ease of interaction and engagement with authentic environments, which is critical to being a better student and teacher. Finally, regardless of the specific competency, my definitions revolve around being able to engage and be understood, an aspect that I continue to employ not only as a language learner, but also as a teacher. On one hand, as a learner, my definition helps me focus on the practical aspects of language. Accordingly, I prioritize language elements that would likely allow me to be more expressive and to interact with people. Comparatively, as a teacher, my definition of competencies also influences the way I teach. For instance, I'm more likely to encourage students to find opportunities to test their skills and mastery of language in practical, verbal, and written communication interactions instead of waiting, let's just say, to be evaluated through assignments and exams. However, I also acknowledge that some students have a different philosophy that might be different to mine. I mean, it may contradict mine. For instance, as a teacher, I have often found that students who undertake a second language for academic and work purposes are more interested in being competent in formal aspects of language. So they tend to prioritize mastery through theoretical learning before attempting to test their skills in an interactive setting. I respect their philosophy and I do not impose mine. I encourage them to find practical ways to advance their competencies while being guided by their philosophy of learning language. So I hope I gave you some insight to my understanding of language competencies, and I hope you keep safe, and see you guys later. Bye.